Shalom, shalom. I want to begin by giving all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and enough respect to the brothers that are out there pushing and spreading the truth, which is the gospel of Yahweh Bahashem Yahshai to the four corners of the world. Lord willing, this may be edifying.
Mr. Ham and his followers have this remarkable view of a worldwide flood that somehow influenced everything that we observe in nature. A 500-foot wooden boat, 8 zookeepers for 14,000 individual animals, every land plant in the world underwater for a full year. I ask us all, is that really reasonable? You'll hear a lot about the Grand Canyon, I imagine, also, which is a remarkable place, and it has fossils. And the fossils in the Grand Canyon are found in layers. There is not a single place in the Grand Canyon where the fossils of one type of animal cross over into the fossils of another. In other words, when there was a big flood on the earth, you would expect drowning animals to swim up to a higher level. Not any one of them did. Not a single one. If you could find evidence of that, my friends, you could change the world. One of the extraordinary claims associated with Mr. Ham's worldview is that this giant boat, very large wooden ship, went aground safely on a mountain in the Middle East, what we now call the Middle East. And so places like Australia are populated then by animals who somehow managed to get from the Middle East all the way to Australia in the last 4,000 years. Now that to me is an extraordinary claim. We would expect then, somewhere between the Middle East and Australia, we would expect to find evidence of kangaroos. We would expect to find some fossils, some bones. In the last 4,000 years, somebody would have been hopping along there and died along the way, and we'd find them. And furthermore, there's a claim that there was a land bridge that allowed these animals to get from Asia all the way to the continent of Australia, and that land bridge has disappeared in the last 4,000 years. No navigator, no diver, no U.S. Navy submarine. No one's ever detected any evidence of this, let alone any fossils of kangaroos. So your expectation is not met. It doesn't seem to hold up. Another remarkable thing I'd like everybody to consider, inherent in this worldview, is that somehow Noah and his family were able to build a wooden ship that would house 14,000 individuals. There are 7,000 kinds, and there's a boy and a girl for each one of those. So it's about 14,008 people. And these people were unskilled. As far as anybody knows, they had never built a wooden ship before. Furthermore, they had to get all these animals on there, and they had to feed them, and I understand that Mr. Ham has some explanations for that, which I frankly find extraordinary, but this is the premise of the bit. And we can then run a test, a scientific test. People in the early 1900s built an extraordinary large wooden ship, the Wyoming. It was a 6-masted schooner, the largest one ever built. It had a motor on it for winching cables and stuff. But this boat had a great difficulty. It was not as big as the Titanic, but it was a very long ship. It would twist in the sea. It would twist this way, and this way. And in all that twisting, it leaked. It leaked like crazy. The crew could not keep the ship dry. And indeed, it eventually foundered and sank, loss of all 14 hands. So there were 14 crewmen aboard a ship built by very, very skilled shipwrights in New England. These guys were the best in the world at wooden shipbuilding. And they couldn't build a boat as big as the Ark is claimed to have been. Is that reasonable? Is that possible? That the best shipbuilders in the world couldn't do what 8 unskilled people, men and their wives, were able to do. Shipwrights, my ancestors, the Nye family in New England, spent their whole life learning to make ships. I mean, it's very reasonable perhaps to you that Noah had superpowers and was able to build this extraordinary craft with 7 family members, but to me this just not reasonable. It's
All right. So, this man that you're looking at, his name is Bill Nye. He's an esteemed scientist, an engineer, and in this world, in America more specifically, and he's won Nobel Peace Prizes. So, with that title and with all that attention from the people of the world, he stands before the whole world and he mocks God. He mocks the word of God, and he speaks down on the Most High. Now, this, one of the things that I have noticed from these so-called scientists and really a lot of these arrogant, atheists, is that they hold the Most High with their mortal mind. They hold the Most High to a carnal standard. They set him to a certain standard, and then they get frustrated. They get mad when the Most High exceeds that standard, because you just heard him talk about how the biggest boat that's ever been built, the biggest wooden boat, was the Wyoming, right? And it was built by 14 skilled, right, crewmen, 14 men only on a shield with no responsibility of feeding 14,000 sheep, you know? And all their job was to keep a ship afloat at sea, which is less aggressive than a global flood. So that's his argument. So he's holding the position of these carnal men, these normal men. He's holding Noah, who is backed by the Most High, to the standard of normal men, okay, who just go out into the seas. And when he finds out that Noah prevails, again, he's aggravated, like he's mad. Noah should fail. If Noah did not fail, then God does not exist. Then the Bible does not make sense. And the flood never happens. That's their reason. That is why that's why I'm going to go into First Corinthians chapter 1, start from verse 18, and we're going to find out that this is a perfect example of what Paul was talking about. How certain people, because they seek wisdom other than the wisdom of God, it is impossible to preach to them. And that, as a matter of fact, when you preach of the gospel, it is foolishness to them. You know, he talks about how, if you it's this debate that he has is actually like an out like almost 2 hours long, or and I watch all of it, and some of his argument is about how, you know, how was Noah able to keep the boat afloat, because the water should have flooded in, because they have done a lot of these scientists, they've done a lot of experiments reconstructing Noah's Ark. Even though they did it on a small scale, it always happens to leak, and it sinks every time. So they're saying then there is no way Noah's Ark is supposed to, float. But what they don't consider is that the same God who kept the ark afloat, when you read in Exodus, he made sure he parted the Red Seas in half, and he made it to where the water stood up like a wall. It was like a wall to the touch. It was water, fishes were swimming in it. At that point of entry for the Israelites, on both sides, the water stood up like a wall. He spoke of how the plants should not survive, but he forgot that Moses, when he spoke to the angel that appeared in the form of fire, to which the Most High spoke through, was a bush, a plant that was being burnt. He forgot that Isaac, in a time of famine, the Most High made sure that even though the whole land, nobody was able to grow food, only Isaac was able to grow food. He forgot that the Most High gave Elijah the power to shut up the heavens to where to where it does not rain for a whole year. They do not consider all these things. And even if they do, even if you bring it up for them to consider, they will not accept it, you know? And so I also want brothers to understand that when you consider men like these, right, it is it it is very, very difficult to imagine them being humbled. I'm gonna put the video in the link, and if you just go through the script, if you go to the comments and you find out people really hate the Most High, and so I'm thinking like it's almost impossible for these people to love the Most High. It's impossible for these people to respect the Most High. It's impossible for these people to be humble. And so you can only imagine the magnificent, the astonishment of Yahushua's return to where these men are going to be humble. How magnificent, how great is Yahushua going to be that he's going to turn these minds, he's going to turn these guys' minds to where they bow down to him. You know, it's gonna, it's gonna be like a spectacular, you know. Look, Yahushua is coming in style, man. Yahushua is coming in style, and he's come to set things right. You know, he's gonna be that man that does not take no shit, man. He's gonna be that, that OG, that comes in and everybody's quiet. When you go into Jeremiah chapter 51, because there is no there really isn't any way that you could talk to these kind of people. Like if I met this man in real life, you won't be able to speak to him. You won't be able to talk to each other because he expects you to put God aside. He expects you to put spiritual matters aside and speak to him on a carnal level and only explain it and only argue with him, explain the scriptures to him on that, on that level, on a carnal level without God. But it's impossible to do that. You can't do it. And so they get frustrated and they say, "Oh, you are unreasonable. You can't come up with reason." Because every time we bring up a question that you can't answer, you say, "Well, the power of the Most High can take care of it." You know, we don't know how animals from one single point of the earth got to the rest of the earth. Nobody really knows how. You know, but the Most High orders the steps of a man. The Most High puts actions, thoughts into the hearts of man, but it does not go the other way around. We're not aware of everything that the Most High does. We don't know what the Most High is doing every second of the day. We're not aware of it. He can make the plants that are supposed to be dead in a flood for 1 year. He can make it. He can resurrect it. You know. After all, there was nothing, and he made something. He made everything else. It's really really simple, but like I said, because they don't respect the Most High, because this world is unspiritual, you know, it's carnally minded. This they speak against God. They come up against the scriptures and they make fun of God, you know. And the whole thing about fossils, these scientists they have no understand. Like they don't know anything about fossils. They try to parade themselves as smart men, but it is impossible for you to learn exactly what was going on back in that days, you know, because science, you have to observe science, man. You everything that they talk about, every prehistoric animals that they want to talk about. Oh, this animal lived 65 million years ago because we've done carbon dating. We've dated it and all these things. It's all speculations because they weren't there 10, 120 million, 150 million years ago to find out that this animal was there. It's all speculations, you know. And there's been a lot of flaws in fossil in dating fossils. There's been a lot of things wrong with these kind of things, you know. But Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 1, it says, "Thus says the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about." And it's you know when you come across scriptures like these where the Most High gives detailed threats to these people, you understand why when you see videos like this. You understand why the Most High is orchestrating the most painfully experience that no man has ever had. You understand why he's doing these things because their pride because their minds are so far gone that it's gonna take like it's gonna take a great thing to bring them back to their senses. Just like when you go out and somebody keeps wilding out, the only way the only way to bring their senses back is to is to slap them in the face. But it says, I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about, and against him that bendeth let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine. Salakia. Well, I'm trying to get the verse 18. Let me see. Oh, right. Verse 15. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to make it long. There's just judgment against Babylon. Verse 6, it says, Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Matter of fact, yeah, let me get First Corinthians. It's better that way. First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18, it says, For the preaching of the cross, which is this gospel, is to them that perish foolishness. And this man is a man that is destined to perish. You know, this man, there is no life in this man. This man was not predestined to be, to live. He's arrogant, he's proud, man. He's a fool, And so to him, this word that we preach, the scriptures, is foolishness to him. It makes no sense. It says, But unto us which are saved, it is the power of God, right? For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? Right, because they're trying to, they're always trying to find ways to understand the scriptures, only to you know, they're trying to find an alternative truth, an alternative wisdom. And for a while, until they are humble, they call themselves what? They call themselves wise men. You know, they call themselves progressive men. But the Most High always makes fools of them, man. You have Sennacherib. Sennacherib did the same thing. Sennacherib held the Most High. He held the Most High to the standard of these false idols, these false gods. When he went into Israel, Israel was worshiping these false idols, man. It was they were into these graven images. He went over there, destroyed Israel, and he came to Judah and he told Judah, "Look, man, your brethren, I destroyed them. I killed them. Look, we pulverized these guys." And you think your God is going to save you? Their God didn't save them. So in his mindset, he thought that Judah was into the same graven images that the northern kingdom were into. But what happened? In one night, the Most High sent one angel, one of his many one of the, one of the many people, one of the many angels, one of the many powers under his command. He sent one of them, you know, and he killed 185,000 men in 8 hours in a single night. And that same story is going to repeat here. This is the only way the Most High can teach these people. This is the only way the Most High can teach these foolish men. It's by power, man. When you show them power, when you break them in pieces, when you stomp them under your feet, that's the only way they respect you. That's the only way they remember to watch their mouth. There are people like that in this world. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. Right. And it is the will of the Most High that we can't explain every single thing that you want to know. The Most High, it is His will that we can't explain every single thing that you want to know. You know, it pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. For the Jews require a sign. A lot of people, it's not just the Jew alone. In this era that we're living in, it's everybody. Everybody requires a sign. And when everybody comes up and speak up against God, well, let the Most High send lightning right now. Let the Lord do something else. Let they always require a sign. They want to put the Most High to a test. They want the Most High to explain Himself. They want the Most High to prove Himself. You want the Most High who sits on His throne, to prove Himself to you, a fucking man. So the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom, right? And wisdom, in a sense of um, alternative knowledge. They always, like it is in this world. The only wise men in this era are those that don't believe in God, are those that are not spiritual, are those that are just, you know, scientists. Be in the moment, be carnal. You give no regard to any God. There's nobody above you. It's just you and your intellect. You're the supreme person. You're the supreme being, and that's the kind of wisdom that they seek. But we preach Yahushua crucified unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness, right? And this the scriptures is a stumbling block to a lot of these people who seek signs, and it is foolishness to people who seek wisdom other than the wisdom of the scriptures. But unto them which are called, and Tawad Bashim Shai, and the Lord willing, He keeps us in this fold of those that are called and those that are chosen, that we may what? That we may receive this wisdom, and that we may not be confounded. So it says, but unto them which are called, both the Jews and Greeks, Yahushua, Hamashiach, the power of God, and the wisdom of God, right? Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. Because this man is trying to compare a 600-year-old man. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. A man that has lived for 600 years old. Back then, right? Men didn't live like they used to live here. Like, you're a man, I'm an accountant. That's all I do. I don't know how to make shoes. I don't know how to build a house. I don't know how to, hunt. I'm an accountant. That's all I do. All I got to do is go to the grocery store. Men didn't live like that back then. When you were back then, a man knew how to do everything. You knew how to farm. You knew how to fight. You knew how to hunt. You knew how to build, you know? And Noah has been doing this thing. He's been building for 600 years, for centuries. And you're trying to compare the lifespan of a man who was 40 years old, or 60 years, yeah, 40 years old is even being gracious, you know, because ain't no, you know, 55, 50, 50-year-old is going to be on a, going to risk his life on a wooden boat just to prove a point, you know. And the weakness of God is stronger than men. For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. That's right. And because they are not, and because they have not been given the knowledge, like I said, man, this man is like he's highly esteemed. He's a highly esteemed scientist. He's very famous, you know. And because he can't get the scriptures, then nobody should be into the scriptures. He doesn't know God, then nobody should know God. But it doesn't work that way. The Most High, not many mighty, not many noble are called. The Most High made this thing for base men. He made this thing. He made this a very humble thing. You know. It says, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and the base things of the world, and the things which are despised has God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. And the Most High, yo, He is, man, He is. It's not He is smart, not He is powerful, not He is fast. He is. You know, that name fits Him so it fits Him like a glove. You know, that no flesh should glory in his presence. And this is what it's all about, humility, you know, humility. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13, you fear God, and follow his commandments. This is the whole duty of men. Fear God, man. Humble yourself. Put yourself under him. Recognize that he is a power above you. You know, didn't want to, I think I'm making this too long. So I'm going to jump around in Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 51. So the judgment against Babylon, that O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, this is talking about Babylon, thine end is come, and the measures of thy covetousness. The Lord of hosts has sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. He made the earth by his power. He has established the world by his wisdom, and has stretched out the heavens by his understanding. When he utters his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightning with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish in his knowledge. You hear that? Every man is foolish, you know, by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven images, for his molten image is falsehood. Right? So there's no God beside the Most High. Nobody even comes close to his majesty, you know, and there and you know, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the works of errors, and in time of their visitation they shall perish. You know, hey, call Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. The Most High is magnificent and powerful, and He will put an end to this madness. You know, in this kingdom, you ain't gonna have you're not gonna have anybody talking like this in the kingdom. In the kingdom, everybody's gonna be in their right mind. And this Edomite right here, after he done served his sentence, he shall not be found on the face of the earth. He won't be found anywhere else. You brothers know what I'm talking about. To the brothers that are listening, I want to say shalom. And to the few aquas that also listen to truth and sincerity, shalom. May the blessing of election be upon all our houses. May we be one of those privileged that are called, that the Most High makes the word, that the Most High makes this word wise unto us, and not a stumbling block, and not foolishness unto us. So with that, I'm gonna end it right here. I hope edification